Oh, well, hi, good afternoon. Can't say that I was expecting that. Good heavens. Here was me saying, I messaged Russ before saying, I'm really sorry. Very unprofessional of me, but might be a couple of minutes late for today's show. I know, shocking behavior. You'd never get this on the likes of the BBC. Well, I mean, you say that. However, but Russ isn't here either. Where's he gone? Oh, here he is. Thank you.
Ridiculous.
Mr. Kane.
No. I've been here
Can't
for
hear.
over. I've been here for. Oh, you can't what? You can't hear me now.
Well, I don't know why. But anyway. Oh, I can see. Oh, there's why. There we are. That's better.
Marvelous.
Sorry.
Here's the
Hello,
thing.
there we are.
Here's
Oh,
the thing, right?
Here's the thing. Yeah.
Is that I've been here for half an hour trying to get this thing to work.
Oh.
And absolutely would not go live. Would not budge. Wouldn't do it at all. So I've just had to shut everything down in the entire studio and start again. But that's why it's very odd, because it said the red go live button, and then you press it, and then
and it wouldn't
then
go
drops
live.
down. No, absolutely wouldn't do it. There we are. There we are. She knows we're here. We know she's there. It's all marvelous. Hello, Russ and Phil, says Robert Van Buren. How are you? I haven't seen you like forever. It feels like a very long
sorry.
time.
I've been off for a couple of weeks. I do apologize. Well, I was around last week, and then I forgot. Actually, I wasn't around because I wasn't.
The whole thing was like what? But I feel I haven't seen you in a long time. I feel like I've become a hermit-like in some ways. And there we are.
And you said, I've just realized I've got one of you.
What's the matter? What's the matter? What's going on? What's happening?
Weird notice board thing behind me.
It's very good. It says, Phil, you are on canteen duty Friday 1:03 till 5 o'clock.
This is a good lesson for you when you when you work in these sorts of environments. Always check your background.
Yes. What does it say? It says, Jeremy Kyle, you smell. No, it doesn't say that. What does it say? Just
what's wrong with it? It doesn't say anything. It's just a blank thing.
Everything's wrong with me. Everything's wrong with me.
it's just a blank board thing, you know.
Well, I know. I get bored and I feel blank, and that's kind of it. Hey, so Sakia today has taken down the portrait of Margaret Thatcher.
Yes.
What a spiteful little man he is.
Yes.
Whether you liked her politics or not, she was the first woman Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. And it was in a room,
arguably the last good Prime Minister that we had. But anyway,
well, we're not going to go down that particular massive rabbit hole the size of Milton Keynes. But what a spiteful little man he is. Just spiteful.
Well, that is certainly the impression I get.
Joyless, utterly joyless, human. He could suck the pleasure out of anything. Anything.
Right.
Unbelievable. What? Now you don't smoke. I smoke cigars. I smoke cigars and I smoke a pipe. You occasionally smoke a cigar, but like every.
I haven't actually. Do you know what? What I was going to say? I haven't actually lit up since I think 2021.
Blimey. Well, I smoke like 1-2 cigars a week, usually one a week, and I smoke my pipe sometimes in the afternoon. That's it, right? The hospitality industry has never recovered from the lockdown, ever. It's never bounced back, right? Not properly. If he bans smoking in pub gardens, it's going to take another nosedive. It'll kill its own dead. What is he trying to do? Is he just trying to make this Stalinist Russia and the third? What is his plan here? You're a clever man.
It's a very good question. I was trying to work it out because I mean, it's ultimately I can't work out whether or not it is trying to kill two birds with one stone, no pun intended. Because if you think about it, what are the two biggest causes of expenditure to the NHS?
Well, there's people being overweight by eating crap.
Well, actually, there's three biggest. So you got the smoking industry, you got the sugar industry, and then you've got the booze industry, right? So if he actually gets it to a point where he kills off pubs and people aren't out about gathering, smoking, and doing all sorts of weird and wonderful things, well, then he's actually sort of killed two problems there, hasn't he? But then what I'm slightly confused about is the amount of money he'd lose on alcohol duty. That's what I'm not sure about, but I don't know. It's very strange.
You do realize, by the way, I'm trying to stream this to Instagram and failing miserably. Here's the thing, right? There's so much to unpack. Do you realize that the geniuses who're supposed to govern us, but they forget that they work for us, we don't work for them. They need to be reminded of that. I've worked out that because people are buying electric cars, there's no fuel duty. So now all the tax they were getting from petrol has disappeared. And they've just worked that out. And they're thinking, oh, blimey, what are we going to do? Oh, I know. We'll lie and rescind all the advantages we were going to give people who have EVs. We'll just charge them congestion if we want to, parking charge. It'd be exactly the same as if you were driving a Bullet V8 Mustang, 800 horsepower. Make no difference. It's true, though, isn't it? It's true.
Well, I mean, this is where this whole idea of pay per mile is potentially coming.
Which they always said they wouldn't do. Susan Hall said that Sadiq Khan, worst mayor in living memory in London, would bring in pay per mile. And they've always denied it. And I've always said, this is what they're going to do. They're going to bring in pay per mile. It's guaranteed. Plus, they'll put a black box in every car. This isn't tinfoil hat stuff. This is what they're going to do. That's 100%. What they're going to do next.
Absolutely, 100%. Everyone will be monitored to within an inch of their life.
And it'll be like, oh, where are you going? Why were you going?
And then if something
why were you going
if
there?
someone's done something wrong, then there'll be automatic fines. We've sort of got that as good as now anyway.
Well, yeah, with the cameras and everything. Yeah, with the cameras. So they'll insist. The only way they can do pay per mile is either they change the automatic number plate recognition system, or they will force, as this lot are going to force everything.
When are people going to turn around and say enough is enough?
Well, they did.
This is what I don't understand.
They did, and they got labelled far right.
But I just don't understand it. I mean, I actually saw a glimmer of that, when this, and I don't condone or encourage violence or vandalism or anything like that.
Not at all.
But we sort of saw a glimmer of that when you look at what happened when the ULEZ expanded to all of London. And people were going around and they were just randomly destroying the ULEZ cameras. Now, as I say, I don't condone it, but I'm not surprised people did that. I really am not surprised because there are an awful lot of people who are fed up and they're thinking to themselves, well, how about our money is for us rather than we're just legally robbed every 2 seconds of our life?
So let's just finish this view. I didn't even know we were going to get into it, but let's just finish this thing. They'll put in black boxes. Now, sometimes insurance companies say, oh, if you put a black box, let me just tell you this. This is, many people have told me, insurance companies say, well, if you put a black box in, you get a big discount on your car insurance premium. You go, oh, okay, that sounds like a good idea. Then they start to contact you. We don't like the way you brake. I'm not joking. We think you brake too fiercely. We think you're accelerating too far. What? Shut up. It's nothing to do with you. You're making an absolute killing out of the insurance. I mean, it's a joke. Daylight bloody robbery, right? But if they put these black boxes in, they can say, well, you know what, Mr. Dave, you approached those traffic lights too fast. Yes, you did stop at them, but we don't like the way you can see how this is. You can see exactly how this is going to go. And it'll be so that if the black box is linked to pay per mile, it'll be like, oh, you went 21 miles an hour in a 20 zone, 3 o'clock in the morning when there's nobody there. Oh, automatic fine. You can see all of this. And we are just marching to it like lemmings.
It's like just lemmings. Ridiculous.
So your point is, when people are sick of it. This is like, this guy, his popularity has gone to a minus within 5 weeks. Now 7 weeks later or whatever it is, it's catastrophic. It's in free fall, right? They don't care. They don't care because they got such a majority. And my question to you, Phil Dave, because you have your finger on the pulse, because you work for one of the biggest news agencies on the planet, where's the opposition? Where's the opposition?
Well, isn't that a great question? So Prime Minister's
whatever happened?
I know. Well, Prime Minister's question does return this Wednesday, thankfully. Right. So it'll be the first time in about 6 weeks that we've seen or heard from Rishi Sunak. So it'll be interesting. Yeah, quite. It'll be interesting to see what he has to say for himself. But I think unfortunately, when you've got a prime minister who has been disgraced in quite, or former prime minister who's been disgraced in quite the way Rishi Sunak has been, I hate to say it, I don't really think he's any credible opposition. So that's why we really need to hurry the heck up and just sort this blooming Tory leadership contest out with, because hopefully, with a bit of luck, you have someone like Kemi Badenoch or Priti Patel, one of these really strong people from the opposition, sitting on the other side of the bench and holding the Prime Minister and government to account in a way that, let's be honest, Rishi Sunak just can't do. I'm sorry, he comes across a very nice chap, but he is too nice. He's not strong enough.
I don't care they're nice. I don't care they're nice. They're not. It's not a popularity contest. It's not America with Kamala Harris, who once had an idea and it died of loneliness. It's not that. It's, are you effective? Can you do the job that you are paid handsomely to do? And they can't. They can't. No. And it's going to be too late.
Tell me about it.
I'm really looking at thinking, maybe time to move on somewhere. I really, because
believe me, I hear you, and I know so many people. Yeah. No, I know so many people who think the same thing, that this country's finished, it's done. But I have to be honest. I really do stand by this. I don't think it's too late to bring it back from the abyss. I really don't. But here's the problem: we're never going to do that until we get a strong government who puts the country above people's feelings in power. That's the only way it's going to happen.
It's what I don't understand is that professional buffoon Miliband, who his policies seem to be as gormless as he looks. He all of a sudden can just piss up the wall billions of pounds in some crackpot scheme, but you can't pay people winter fuel allowance.
No. And also let's not forget we've got the money to pay the unions as well, because they're our friends.
Because that was payback. And what I particularly loved about that was, as far as I could see, the person doing the negotiations was one of the ex-chief union people. It's all their mates.
But apart from anything,
it's all their mates.
Yeah, but apart from anything, what's even more ridiculous about that is no sooner had they accepted that pay deal, they're now going on strike again.
For what? For what?
Apparently something to do with the long term now. This is another reason.
Never long term. So here's the thing, right? The Jubilee line, it's completely automated. I didn't believe that. Jonathan Baz told me that.
It is true.
The Jubilee line is totally automated. When you hear the driver saying "mind the doors," etc., that's what the driver's doing. That's actually what the driver's doing, is opening and closing the doors and saying "mind the doors." The rest of it is totally automated.
So do you want to know what's even worse, right? In terms of the lines, have a guess. So let me just call it. I'm just going to remind myself the exact number of underground lines. I appreciate if you're listening outside of London, or watching outside of London, this probably doesn't make much sense. But if you bear with me 2 seconds, out of all of the tube lines, right? Are you ready for this? Yeah. Right. Hazard a guess as to how many have the ability to go automated. So we've got, just to actually sort of clarify the lines we've got, you're talking the Bakerloo Central, Metropolitan, Piccadilly, Circle District, Hammersmith City, Jubilee Northern, Victoria, Waterloo City, London Overground, Elizabeth Line, DLR, and the tram service.
I would suggest not the Bakerloo, because
Bakerloo is not automated.
Because the train, I always feel like Hercule Poirot is going to walk onto the tube whenever I use the Bakerloo a lot, and it's just fabulous because the carriages. I expect somebody in a trilby and a pipe. What do you think about Claire Matley?
So it is Bakerloo and Piccadilly lines are the only ones that don't have the ability to go automated. Yeah. And they are just about to get train upgrades in the next year. So every single line on the London Underground, if they wanted to, could be automated.
Oh, it's complete smoke and mirrors. It's absolute smoke and mirrors. The safety. It's automated.
Literally the whole bloody lot.
It's run by computers, which of course, when it goes wrong, that's why they can't sort it, because they can't override it. I got stuck on the Jubilee line for ages yesterday, another fire alert somewhere or other, and so I just gave up and sat in 2 buses for hours, literally hours. I went to a wonderful book launch in the lunchtime. My school friend, we've been friends since we were 14, Patrick Humphreys. A new book about the Beatles. We're getting him on the show. He's been on the show. We're going to get him back on the show. He's a lovely man, a very special guy. So that was fun. And I ran into Jeffrey Holland. Heidi Hi. Do you remember Jeffrey Holland?
Heidi Hi, campers.
Jeff, Oh, come on, Spike. It'll be all right. They won't know. Oh, I don't know. It was Jeffrey Holland and Judy Buxton, who I did panto with, and they're just delightful. And Tony Nicholson, who used to write so much for the breakfast show at Capital, and he happened to be there. It was lovely to see each other. I haven't seen him in ages. So this is it. This is what really worries me. What I don't understand also is, and I'm just going to put my hand in the hornet's nest, okay? There's no money for anything. It's all going to be a very painful budget. It's all going to be terrible. But foreign aid, not a problem. What do we get out of foreign aid? Do we get deals? Do we get trade deals? Do we get the fact they won't chop our heads off? What's the deal with foreign aid?
It is a joke. I don't get it. I mean, the only thing I can think of is maybe there is some sort of way that those countries somehow, I wouldn't say hold us to ransom, but maybe
that's exactly what I'm thinking.
They must have some hold over the UK, because otherwise, why? I'm not being funny.
Why would you bother?
Look at a country like India, okay, which has got its own space program for freaks' sake.
Any country, you put your finger on it, any country which has got a space program or developing nuclear weapons don't need money from a tiny little island stuck out in the North Sea.
How about some people pay us foreign aid, for crying out loud, for all the mess that's been caused over here? That'd be quite nice.
But I don't understand this obsession. Just stop it. Cut it. Just stop it. Turn the tap off. Put it back into the proper part of the NHS, the people who actually do the work, not running around with sodding clipboards. I mean, the doctors and the nurses, people at the front end of it, who are at the coalface, who really do the work. They keep saying there's no money for anything, and they always find this money for stuff that is of no use to the citizens of the UK. None at all.
Herein lies the problem, is because unfortunately we have too many people in positions of power who simply don't care about society at all. They don't care about the UK. All they care about is themselves and their own ridiculous agendas. And it is because we have allowed time in, time out, year after year after year, these absolute swines to do whatever the heck they want. And it's got to stop. Like, when the heck does the UK turn around and say, do you know what? Enough already. You're taking the proverbial. It's not going to happen anymore. We're in charge of you, not the other way around.
But, and now I'm getting into very choppy waters.
Just saying.
I'm going to be very careful. I'm going to be very careful. Unless sometimes direct action is taken, how do you achieve this? How do people achieve this?
I
go back to the days of Harold Wilson. I've said this before and I will say it again. Harold Wilson thought he was paranoid that he was being bugged. Harold Wilson, for the younger, was a Labour Prime Minister here in the UK in the 70s. He thought he was paranoid being bugged, that he was being followed, etc. In fact, he wasn't. He was being bugged because the establishment thought he was a stooge for the Kremlin, and he was a communist sympathizer and spy. Whether he was or wasn't, no idea. Probably not. And he got to the stage that senior army officials and senior members of the armed forces were ready to have a coup. Not myth, not fiction, fact. The tanks were going to roll onto the lawns, as they say. And the coup was discovered. Nobody was arrested, but those senior army officers were quietly moved to one side, and it was all averted. But they'd had enough. It would never surprise me. Never, if that happened again. I don't think it would surprise me at all. Nobody wants that. Nobody wants that. But the thing is, you're operating under a tiny minority. It looks like a big minority, but when you look at the percentage of the population that actually voted you in, it's minuscule. Same as with Sadiq Khan, minuscule.
Well, this is the problem. You see, I suppose they can't really determine they know the statistics. They know the percentage on which they were voted in. It's something ridiculous, like 32, 33%.
It's in the very low 30s.
But whatever a ridiculous amount it was, unfortunately, because of our voting system, which I don't necessarily disagree with, because I think people forget. They love the idea of proportional representation as if it's this wonder system that works elsewhere, but it really doesn't. Most of Europe has PR, and it doesn't work either.
No,
so unfortunately, I don't know what the answer is, but there is no denying that the system we have at the moment is certainly not designed for this day and age.
And also, it's down to apathy. You know, it's really down to apathy. If and I said when the election was coming up, if you don't vote, that is your choice, but you have no say in what happens for the next 5 years. You can't comment because you didn't vote. If you couldn't be bothered to walk to your little, you know, your church hall, your local civic centre, your library, or wherever the polling booths were with your little stubby pencil and very charming people behind the little wooden trestle tables, etc. If you couldn't be bothered to do that and spend 10 minutes of your day exercising your democratic right, you have no right to comment on anything that's happened because you abdicated. And if you abdicated, well, that's it. Abdicated. Finished. It's very, very worrying. It is really worrying because it's not the nanny state, this wonderful phrase. It's like a nanny, that's something positive. It's something caring. It's something that's going to look after your best interests. That's the joke. This isn't a nanny state. Stalin wasn't a nanny state.
It's a dictatorship.
Mao Zedong wasn't a nanny state. You know, Chiang Kai-shek wasn't a nanny state. Pol Pot wasn't a nanny state. These are not looking after your best interests. They're looking after policies. They're looking after philosophical points of view.
Sir Keir Stalin.
Well, I said that, and I actually put that up weeks ago. I just called him Keir Stalin, and people went mad. Do you feel, here's a big question, constrained about what you write on Facebook or Twitter or social media? Do you feel constrained now?
No, I won't stop.
Do you feel more cautious?
No, if I'm honest, I really don't. If anything, it makes me more determined.
You see,
it really does.
Here's the double bind, isn't it? You and I are both in that regard similar, because I'm getting more and more and more furious at seeing the iniquity of it all. And so you want to comment. I do not need the police turning up at a doorstep. They can find me, of course. The police turning up and saying, well, you're under arrest for this, that, and the other. Who would have thought you can commit serious violent crimes and just walk free under some bullshit excuse? And yet, if you do a tweet, you can be arrested and banged up for like
because it's whatever is easiest. That's what this is what I've come to the conclusion of what it boils down to, is that people can't accuse the police or any other one of the authorities not doing anything, because they're just doing it in the wrong place. So actually, when they attack the people who are sort of the people who are speaking freely or what have you, because it's quite easy to do that. When they're pulling someone over because they're driving too quickly, who looks like a sort of decent individual who just happens to be going a couple of miles over the speed limit, or when they have a go at someone who's not paying the TV light, all of these people are easy targets.
They're soft targets.
Exactly. So you can't turn around and say the police aren't actually doing any policing, because they are, in inverted commas. But then when you've got the individuals such as the pro-Hamas demonstrators, and yes, they are pro-Hamas before anyone says it. I don't give a damn what you say. It is the organizers of those events are fundamentally anti-Israel and anti-Semitic. It is pro-Hamas. It's pro-terrorism.
And they're anti-West.
It's revolting.
And anti-West as well. Yes.
And anti-West. So, but when you've got those, when you've got the young, the youths who are going around with knives, the police don't want to confront them because they're terrified if they shoot them, they'll be done up on a murder charge. Shoot the blooming lot. Seriously, if you're going to carry a knife and you're going to be a threat to other people's innocent lives, they need to be taken off the streets. It's as simple as. And I don't care how you do that. To tell you the truth, I really don't. If someone's innocent, obviously I don't want to see any harm comes to them. But who the hell in their right mind should be allowed to carry machetes and God knows what else and get away with it? It's disgusting. But all of these individuals are harder targets, and they don't want to, because the police have bit by bit systematically had their abilities to target these people taken away from them. Because if they use tasers and someone inadvertently drops dead as a result of it, that police officer will be held up on a murder charge. How does that make sense?
Because
so that individual was a threat to life.
Yeah, of course. No, of course. If you're walking, look, the law in the UK is very simple. The blade cannot be. There's several things, and I've looked into it. First of all, it can't be a lockable blade. So you can't have a stiletto knife, which locks. In other words, a lockable blade is when it's flicked open, it stays locked. When we were kids, you had a penknife, it folded. All right, that's legal. A lockable blade is not. The blade must be under 2.5 or 3 inches. That is the maximum length. So it cannot be lockable, and it can't be longer than 3 inches maximum. Now, if you think, well, I'll carry that because I'm within the law, not quite, because the grey areas, excuse me, Mr. Dave, what do you do for a living? Well, I produce radio programs and I'm a broadcaster. Well, can you explain why you've got a knife on you? Well, I might need to open an envelope. Okay. I'm going to cut some wires at, in the studio. I need for that. Okay. So each case can be judged. Well, I'm talking about a little blade, all right? So you can be pulled over for that, and then they can, even if you're within the law, so it's not a lockable blade, it's under 3 inches long or 2.5 inches long, they can still query why you've got it. If you make the mistake of saying, I'm worried about the violence on the streets, you're in deep, deep trouble. Because that means you're carrying the blade, talk about that, for self-defense. Carrying a blade for self-defense is not legal in the United Kingdom. That's the thing. However, wandering around in a gang carrying a 2.5 foot machete, not a problem.
That's fine. No worries at all. You knock yourself out.
Do you see the ludicrous situation that you're in? It's Kafkaesque. Why are you carrying the blade, Mr. Dave? I'm really nervous for my personal safety. Oh, so it's for self-defense. Right, you're nicked. Why are you worried about it? Because there's people wandering around the streets with what they call zombie knives and machetes, which of course should be illegal. No question about it. Boom.
Do you know what? I believe that I do think to anyone who is carrying,
there you go. It's bonkers.
But I think to anyone who is carrying one of those blades, I think no questions asked, the police should be allowed to taser. Yeah. I don't see what the problem is. I mean, actually, we do see exactly what the problem is. It's because it's the same way with that scenario with that airport a few weeks back. Do you remember when that chap was tasered and the police?
Oh, well, they still wandering around. No. Are they still?
We haven't heard anything about them. They've sort of been buried under the carpet, haven't they? In the hope that no one will question it.
Those 3, they're still wandering around. They've been charged. Have they been charged?
I have not heard.
So have they been charged? Sorry, the signal dropped.
No, I have not heard that they have been charged. I don't.
So the fellow. So what about the Labour councillor then, who was advocating slitting people's throats?
Wouldn't be a terrible idea to get them behind bars either. Have we lost you, Russ? Oh dear. I do believe.
What?
Got to put 50 pence in the meter. This could be a very long show if we're listening. If we're literally listening to every other word, with about a second gap. Oh dear. Russ, we've lost you a bit. You seem to have a he's gone. Gone. Fortunately, though, much better. Chantal Rickards is here. Hi, Chantal.
Well, hello. I think my broadband is working, so let's.
Thank heavens for that. You know what? This actually could be divine intervention, couldn't it? Or actually could be governmental intervention. You never know.
It could be.
Maybe they're listening to what we're saying and they're saying having none of that.
I don't think they're going to take us off air right this minute. But
it depends. We the more stupid we make the things that they couldn't possibly do, they then do. So it's fantastic. Now, are you back in the UK? Are you back in London? Are you in France? Are you in Wales? Are you in Los Angeles?
Well, this Friday I'm in Wandsworth in South London.
Good Lord, don't 32 the High Street above the kebab shop, if everyone's wondering.
Correct. Absolutely.
Yeah, that really looks like it's above a kebab shop.
Well, it's a huge kebab shop. It's enormous. It's enormous. Kebabs are us. Wandsworth.
Yeah, happy to be back. France was great, but it's always lovely to be home.
Is it?
So, yes.
You always feel, you and I have the opposite view. You always love being home and getting away from LA and California. And I'm like, oh no, drag me on the plane.
I love getting into my own bed, in my own sheets, my own pillow, more than life itself.
Couldn't agree more.
Wow. No, I like
there is nothing like being in one's own bed.
No,
one's own bed is marvelous.
No. E Phantom, crazy girl, crazy name, says great tan.
Oh, thank you for that. Yes, that's courtesy of the French. We don't thank them for a lot, but I'll thank them for their sunshine.
And quite rightly. Excuse me. Don't make me sound hard done by. Anyway,
French.
No, indeed.
French.
Indeed.
Yeah. Now, what happened? I thought you were taking me to Boulogne or somewhere exciting. What happened to that plan?
Well, that we haven't actually managed to pull that off yet. But honestly, if
I'm
you're
liking the we. I'm liking the we here. The we of.
Mais oui.
If you're up for it, I can take you to Boulogne.
We go next week. God.
Okay.
I'm waiting for some correspondence from the hospital to tell me what the hell I can do.
Right.
And they are dragging their feet. Let's just say. Now, I want to recommend something before you do.
And I just want to say as well. Don't worry, lovely listener. I have no idea what the hell they're talking about either.
Last week, when you excused yourself, Mr. Phil, can't remember your middle name, Dave. I think it's called Troublemaker.
No, you should remember my middle name.
I should. I know it.
Because it's a middle name within your. It's the middle name is a name within your family. But anyway, my middle name is James.
Oh yes, of course it is. Of course it is. Like one of my many, many, many children.
There you go.
Or not. I don't know. Who knows? Anyway, I was very lucky. I was taken to the British Museum last week.
Oh.
The British Museum. To see a screening of a new Netflix thing called Chaos. Chaos.
I'm glad you've seen it.
Which I saw it on the big screen.
Right.
The lights come up, and I'm sitting on the end, and who walks right by me to go to the stage? Jeff Goldblum.
Oh,
I nearly died. I nearly died. So there's Jeff Goldblum, there's Janet McTeer, who plays Hera, and then there was the fellow from the British Museum who's like in charge of all sort of antiquities, the most eloquent, charming man, as you would expect, and the creator of the series, Charlie Curran.
Yeah.
Whose pronouns are they, them, which completely threw me because every time Janet McTeer kept saying, they are so clever, we love working with them. And I'm thinking, well, who's the other? I actually was sitting there going, who's the other person? I realized she was referring to Charlie Curran, who is a writer of some huge talent. Put the rest of it aside. I don't go with pronouns.
Terrible shame that whoever that writer is might be of talent. They didn't pay much attention in biology, did they?
Well, let's not walk. They were all buying into this stuff. And then in the middle of it, Janet McTeer says, oh, we couldn't turn down the opportunity of working with, what the hell's his name? Oh, God. Susie Izzard. And I'm sitting there going, who the hell's oh, I mean, Eddie Izzard. All right.
Eddie Izzard.
Anyway, putting all that hoo-ha to one side, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was very clever. I thought it was jolly clever. It's an 8-parter. It's on Netflix. It's called Chaos. Jeff Goldblum is fantastic. It looks great. It's a smart, clever script. There you go. It's on now.
Yeah, good, because that was on my list too. I think you need to explain what it's about because it's.
Oh yeah, what is it?
Chaos. It's about the Labour government. Chaos is a take on Greek mythology.
Correct.
Oh.
And what it is as though the world, our normal world, is continuing, but is being run by the Greek god. So it's modern.
Yeah.
but it's being so there is Zeus and Hera and Dionysus, and there's all the Greek myths.
There's Hera,
and myths and couldn't resist. But it's done with a real twist. And Prometheus, who's still stuck on a rock having his liver eaten out by an eagle every day, is the narrator.
Lovely.
And Zeus,
Stephen Delane.
Zeus is really a dictator. At one point benevolent, and then he kind of gets pissed off and not so benevolent. So they still have human sacrifices and anything, but it's on TV. It's very, very... It's really clever because there's the world of the gods. To be
honest with you, I'm not sort of hearing that much different to the world we're living in at the moment. You know?
Well, what, people living in a godlike existence like the Obamas, but telling you it's all terrible. Yeah. All right. So you've got the sort of Elysium, which is then of course they had to get in. Oh, was it based on Mar-a-Lago? And at least the creator said, no, I wrote it before all that. So good. Oh, but if you want to interpret it, it was just such a cheap gag. But you got that. Then you got the real world, and very clever. You know, she goes to the supermarket, the opening scene, the names of the cereal packets are just brilliant. If you love Greek mythology and all of that, it's very, very clever. And
if you like Greek mythology, if you like Greek yogurt. Yeah.
Well, there's all those jokes. I mean, there's all those very subtle, clever. It's very clever.
Well, that's the thing is you said the word jokes. There's a lot of humor in it. And the jokes are really good. There's some cracking one-liners. Yeah. It's bonkers beyond belief. Jeff Goldblum is sensational because he's always sensational. So I just love him to pieces.
Yeah.
And you know, basically the gods are terribly worried that maybe they're no longer immortal. So that's the sort of, you know, the background to all of this is Jeff Goldblum's character, is Zeus getting older? Is he somehow losing his power? Yeah. Is the underworld, i.e. us mortals, us mere mortals, are we cutting up rough and behaving in a way that we should? It's very peculiar, but the satire is writ large and the comedy is writ large. It's very odd, and it's had really interesting reviews.
Oh, has it had mixed reviews?
Well, they've mostly been brilliant. But some people can't quite put their finger on it because they don't quite know what it is, and that's actually one of the interesting things about it. It doesn't.
Who plays Hades?
Who plays Hades? Now let me think. I'm not sure I've seen
Bobby Crush.
It's not Bobby Crush.
Could have been Hilary O'Neill.
It's not Bobby Crush.
I don't know.
Honestly, it's a great cast.
Gemma Collins.
Gemma Collins plays the entire underworld.
It's definitely worth trying one episode, just to see if you like the humor, and if you.
But I have to say, on a big screen, wow, with the wonderful sound and the big screen, you kind of get the whole thing, and the music tracks are wonderful. And the creator said, when she was writing it, she always writes with a music track in mind, knowing she couldn't possibly afford the PRS and to buy the rights. She said, until Netflix. Because they could buy anything. So the music tracks is her dream music track, which is but there's a brilliant bit right at the end where a certain character, doesn't matter who, I'm not doing any spoilers, has died. So you know they're going to be on a ferry, you know, across the River Styx and all that. I was going to say
it's the River Styx.
And you expect some little kind of
the Mersey.
Yeah. And you expect some sort of gondola in your mind. And of course, it's a massive, huge industrial sized ferry with hundreds and hundreds of people all wearing life jackets. And I thought, that is just so clever. Who would have seen that? It's so smart. Anyway, that's it. It's called Chaos, Kaos. Yeah. And it's on Netflix, and you can
came out yesterday.
Thursday. Yeah, came out yesterday. You can watch
adding it to the watch list as we speak.
Yeah,
I think it's the sort of thing that if you get it and you go with it, you'll love it, or you'll think this is frothy nonsense, and you won't like it.
Yeah,
I do also wonder how much about Greek mythology you have to have up your sleeve though before you.
Not too much.
No, it's okay if you had. I mean, that was also brought up, especially by the guy who's the head of the British Museum in charge of all of that. If you know it, it helps. But if you don't know anything about it, it doesn't really matter. It's okay. You can just enjoy it as a story.
Exactly. And they do sort of explain what the conventions are supposed to be as they go along. So there's a narrator, and who is the Stephen Delane character, and he sort of says, well, of course the mortals are supposed to do this and the gods are supposed to do that. So you do get educated, and that obviously helps. It's fun. Try it out.
They've also done something which is very
difficult. It. Don't worry.
That's the one. They've done something which is very difficult to do, and so many people fail at because it's hard. They've delineated between what is, the world of the gods and the mortal world, and then presumably we're going to see the underworld as well. So there's 3 different universes, and often when you're watching fiction, it gets so blurred, and you're sitting there going, "Okay, where am I now? I'm confused." Very clear where you are in every scene, which is tough to do, and they've done it beautifully.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's that.
Okay, excellent. Well, I'll take you to something much more mundane now, and then that's the second series of Sherwood. I don't know if you remember the BBC One series that came out. No?
No. I remember the name. I do remember the name of it. I just don't remember what it was about.
I've seen it advertised. I have no idea what it's about.
Well, the backdrop to series 1 was the pits were closing down in the sort of Nottinghamshire coalfields, and there were 2 gruesome murders, how they were interconnected, how they were brought together. That was all part of the story, the backdrop of the closures of the pits and life changing in these small Nottinghamshire villages. It's written by James Graham, who everybody thinks is the sort of Alan Bleasdale of his time, that, very gritty, authentic writer. And particularly as he grew up in that area and knows it well, he created this character who was running around Nottingham Forest with what do you call those things? An archery,
bow and arrow.
Well, yes, the modern bow and arrow. I don't know if there's a modern name.
Oh, like crossbows.
A crossbow.
They're called crossbow.
Yeah. Exactly, a crossbow. Yeah. And that was season 1. Season 2 is now back. Fantastic cast. Lorraine Ashbourne, David Morrissey, who in the first series had been the copper. He's now come out of coppering and is the sort of is a local sort of policing czar, but he doesn't work for the police. But clearly there is a murder in the first episode, so we're thinking maybe he's going to come out of retirement, but we're not quite sure at this stage. Leslie Manville is in it. Her husband, the character of her husband, was murdered in the first episode, or dies in the first episode, in the first series rather, not the first episode. So this is
anyone still alive?
Yeah, no. Well, they're all still there. The villages have taken on a completely different complexion, and in many ways, the backdrop to it is the chaos that was left behind. No pun intended. The chaos that was left behind after the mines closed down, and then disaffected youth all getting into drug culture. So the drug culture is clearly part of the story.
There's an awful lot going on here.
There's a lot going on.
When does Maid Marian turn up?
No Maid Marian, no Friar Tuck.
Sheriff of Nottingham?
No? Robert Lindsay turns up, who's again one of my other favorite actors. And I've
gone off him.
No, what?
I've gone way off him. I can't, because of certain political outbursts which he has done. And I know it's very difficult to divorce the actor and their talent from their political outbursts, which I'm not going to go into, but I got right off him. And he was one of my favorites, by the way.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I'm sure he's really worried about my view. I don't think he could give a monkeys, but there you go.
Well, he's the businessman who is trying to suggest that they will start the mining industry again in Nottingham. So there's a lot going on, but it's beautifully played out. It's beautifully written. I mean, I think it's going to be a cracking series. I've seen the first 2 episodes, and it's absolutely worth going back to. So if you saw the first series, you don't need to know much from the first series, but if you saw the first series, it's helpful, but that's still on the BBC iPlayer anyway. So pick it up. Lots of great reviews this week, and really most particularly because the cast are just fabulous. It's really authentic. It really they feel like real people, He's a very, very good writer. Anyway,
and this is Sherwood, yeah.
It's called Sherwood. Yeah,
Sherwood,
BBC
sorry.
One.
Sure.
And 6 episodes. So worth taking a
Yes,
look at.
okay. Do you need to watch this first series first?
No, not really. It doesn't really matter.
I'll find it.
You sort of pick it up pretty quickly, and there is a recap right at the beginning of episode 1. So I think you'll sort of be fine. And also now everybody puts the recaps up on the net somewhere, so you can easily go back and.
Yes, they do. I got very late to the party, and last night I watched a film called Mincemeat. Operation Mincemeat.
Well, we talked about that at the time.
I don't want to take up your time because we love hearing from you. All I will say is Operation Mincemeat, which is on Prime, Amazon Prime, free of charge. Unbelievably good. Absolutely fantastic. I loved every second of it. What a cast, wonderful acting, wonderful writing, looked beautiful, great story. Perfect.
And I watched only a couple of weeks ago, one Saturday afternoon, I was looking for a nice old sort of Turner classic movie type thing to watch. And in fact, on the BBC iPlayer was the original Mincemeat film from either the late 50s or the early 1960s, because it had been done before, because clearly it's from a true story.
Oh, yes.
The later version, obviously the Colin Firth version, is the one that came out about 18 months ago at the cinema. And it's a great story.
It's absolutely.
Yeah, the problem is though that as soon as I heard it had mincemeat in the title, I just thought burger that.
Yeah.
It's beautifully done. It was just splendid. It was just lovely, just great. Anyway, okay.
Russ, the other fantastic news for you particularly, but it does mean you're going to have to put your hand in your pocket for £4.99.
Apple.
Correct. The 4th series of Only Murders in the Building is back on Apple.
I haven't caught up with. I've done series 1 and 2. I haven't started series 3 because I'm saving it for a treat.
Well, don't save it for a treat. Watch number 3 and save number 4 for a treat.
Okay. Okay. It's on Disney apparently. You can get Only Murders in the Building, which it's wonderful.
You'll find it.
Thank you for the recommendation. It's just terrific.
Yeah. And we've talked about it many times before, so I won't bother everybody with it other than to say that in series 4, they all go off to Hollywood, which may or may not be a good thing. But long-awaited series. And I think if you're into Only Murders in the Building, you will be an avid fan. I think it's got a very, very, very loyal following. And it's really good fun. You know, the cast is there. The original cast is there.
Oh, good.
So try it again. Or
will do. I'll get back into it.
Yeah. Won't cost you too much at all.
On Apple. Okay.
All about the Apple.
A couple of very quick science documentaries, which may sound a bit heavy, but they're not.
No, I'm listening.
I like
Well, one of them completely fascinating in that James Cameron, one knows as a film director. And yes, he made Titanic and Avatar, but I didn't really know that he was sort of passionate about, underwater photography and science.
Oh, God, yes.
The planet. Well, that had sort of passed me by, to be honest. And he is behind this documentary series that has just appeared on Nat Geo. So I think in the UK, if you have Now or you have Sky or you have Virgin, you will also probably have Nat Geo as part of those packages. And it's a 6-part documentary series about this extraordinary scientific vessel that is funded by a billionaire hedge fund guy who I've never heard of before, but he was also completely fascinated by science, and as a little boy saw all the Jacques Cousteau programs, and that sort of fueled his love of everything.
On board the Calypso.
Exactly. And James Cameron is an advisor to the tour that this ship is undertaking, and indeed to the documentary. They use absolute cutting-edge technology to see what is happening beneath the waves. The first episode is sensational. It is about whales. I'm not particularly a whale fan, but this is...
Well, you go there on holiday a lot.
I was going to say, you're doing the show from there.
Yeah. Hey.
I have seen whales. I've been on two whale watching tours, one in California and one in Mexico, which were fascinating. But again, you know, I didn't really understand much and saw the odd flipper or two, but wasn't taken with it much more than this. This documentary series is fantastic. I am going to watch every
Have
episode.
you never seen, Chantal, when James Cameron goes like to the bottom of the ocean in a one-man? Oh my God, you've never seen that?
No.
It's unbelievable. He does the deepest dive a submersible has ever done. He goes to the bottom, unless I'm going completely mad, which wouldn't surprise me at the moment, of the Mariana Trench.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay.
In a thing which just looking at it gave me palpitations and I couldn't breathe. And he goes down vertically. It's the most fantastic film of him preparing for this longest drop ever.
That's what I've always admired about you, RK. You never over exaggerate.
What? It is the longest drop ever. No, it's amazing.
No, I don't mean that. It's the palpitations.
What? Oh no, well, I have those permanently at the hospital. But it's so claustrophobic because he gets into this thing which is kind of like a vertical coffin, not like a submersible, and he goes down. Oh, he is beyond brave. Whatever you may think about him and his films and whatever, that takes guts to do that. Wow, how brave!
Okay.
It's a fantastic documentary. Well,
Ocean Explorers is definitely worth watching, even if you're a fan of his or not, or you know, a fan of whales or not. No. It's definitely it's just jam packed with wonderful, wonderful footage. And there's this cast of characters of these scientists who all come together on this trip. And it's really worth watching. It's only 6 parts, but it's just a perfect piece of television, actually.
Really, and you say it's part of National Geographic, yeah?
Yeah, it's called Ocean Explorers. It's a 6-parter. And you will find, I think it was launched within the last week or 10 days.
James Cameron is an expert in this area. People don't always know. And that's why he was very, very critical of when the Titanic expedition, as you know, it imploded and killed everybody on board. He was he did not mince his words with that or his co-designer, the man he'd worked with for many years. He was brutal about the fellow who was leading that expedition and said he would never have they asked to have his name lent to it, I think, or to be attached in some way, and he absolutely point blank refused. He thought it was dangerous. He thought it was badly constructed, and he thought it was an accident waiting to happen, which tragically it was. And he knew exactly why.
Now that you say it, that does ring bells, actually. Pretty grim. Anyway, that's worth watching. And then very briefly, another science-based documentary. But it's, again, you think, oh, hang on, this is all going to be a bit, you know, not the sort of thing that I want to watch or need to watch. But I like Brian May, the guitarist from Queen, as a human being and as a performer and as a writer. I think he's a terrific guy. But he's also an animal lover, major animal lover, one of whom is the badger. Who knew? I certainly didn't know. But he thinks the badgers have been given a bad
badger. So
stop it.
Oh,
sorry.
Anyway, he does think they've been given a bad rap, basically by all the farming community. So it's actually it's rather nice because he brings together the farming community and he talks to them and they talk to him, and it's all done in an incredibly interesting, but with a science background basis to the whole thing about whether badgers are actually detrimental to cattle in the United Kingdom, and clearly the jury is still up on this. But the science has changed and the understanding has changed. It's a 1 hour documentary on the BBC, and I just thought, why do I want to watch something about badger culling and Brian?
Because it's interesting.
Works as a program, absolutely. I mean, I was completely transfixed by this.
He's such a polymath. And charming and talented. I mean, it's like, is there anything he can't do brilliantly? No. And the most delightful guy and one of the great rock gods of all time, and a huge intellectual. Of course, he is Dr. Brian May, as you
Yes.
As you know, I don't know what badgers are supposed to do, but they keep gassing them. And as soon as I hear anybody getting gassed, I don't think that's going to be a
Basically,
good thing.
It's all about bovine TB.
Oh, yeah, that's what it is.
Passing TB
yes. It's all about disease.
Into cattle.
All of that.
But it's not as straightforward as it seems. And actually, you sort of get completely enchanted by these gorgeous little black and white.
They are beautiful looking, aren't they? They're fantastic. You see,
do you think that one could call this bovine intervention?
Yay!
Very good. But you're animal lovers, the pair of you.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Right.
Oh, I hate the idea. Honestly, the way I look at it is if you're that worried about it, just keep the cows and the badgers separated. That's what you do. Don't bloody well kill the badgers, for goodness sake.
Keep them. What? You're going to have another intervention and have a conversation with the badgers and put up a wall.
You know what?
Gonna build a wall. Going to be the greatest wall.
Just say, look. Say to the cows, don't mean to badger you, but
yay!
Oh, I've got a few more up my sleeve. Right. Anyway, on that delightful note,
you have to go.
I have to run away.
You have to go because it's almost time. It's almost time behind those steaming pots and pans in the canteen.
I got to go and earn my crust somehow.
I know. Well, tell me about it. Wouldn't that be a great thing? Phil, bless you for coming. Thank you so much. Always appreciate it. I will see you soon. God bless. Bye bye. I never liked him. Anyway, there's showbiz. There's showbiz in that. There's showbiz in that. I miss him. Oh, damn! I haven't seen him in ages. He's such a.
We'll all have to go on our day trip.
Yes, he's such a fascinating. He's a terrific bloke. He is a terrific bloke. Anything quick? I haven't seen anything particularly exciting
this week, and I don't want to steal the thunder of Jonathan.
You couldn't possibly. He sees everything that, even if it hasn't been written yet, he sees it.
Well, I went to see Fawlty Towers, and really, I only mention it because it's based on a television series that everybody on the planet will know. I think pretty much, even our international listeners and viewers will know Fawlty Towers, written by John Cleese from the 1970s. Very few were made. Was it
12?
12
Only 12.
Made. And it is a raging success on the London stage. It's
extended until the end of January 2025.
So I talked to some of the theatre staff when I went in, and I said, tell me how it's going. And this lovely chap said it was packed out twice a day, every day. They get a few returns each day, but really not very many. But my niece came along and she tried to get a return. And in fact, they got the box at the front of the dress circle. So they were incredibly happy.
So did I. Well, I was invited.
Yeah, at 11 o'clock in the morning, and they got the tickets.
Oh, well.
So we had a completely lovely time. And it's not too wokeified, because I was slightly worried.
It's brilliant. It's hilarious.
Oh, you've seen it?
Yeah. Yeah, I was taken along to see it a couple of months ago, and I thought I couldn't stop laughing. I thought it was hilarious, and as you say, the theatre was absolutely packed.
Yeah.
You don't have to have seen the show. Obviously, it helps, but if you haven't, you can just see it as a farce. The guy playing Basil Fawlty was unbelievably good. I mean, just fantastic. They've melded together several of the big shows, the plot lines, and it works beautifully.
Yeah.
And here's an interesting thing, Chantal, that Ray Gelato went with the family, went with his son, daughter, Mrs. Gelato, and himself. They went to see it the other week, I think last week. And so you got different generations, and they were crying with laughter. I mean, Ray remembers it, obviously, as you and I do. The daughter will have never seen it and just thought it was hilarious. It's just so good.
It's brilliant physical comedy, and the timing.
Oh, it's exhausting as well, isn't it? It's like the
cast of 16 all coming in and out of doors at the same, I mean, the choreography of who comes on the stage when and what falls off the wall, and
I'm just thinking about, and even if you know some of the lines, and you're sitting there waiting for some of your favorite lines of all time from television comedy, and when they come, they're still fresh and they're still so funny.
Yeah.
And interesting. I found interesting, of course, it's an international mob sitting in the auditorium because there's loads and loads of tourists. It's peak tourist season, right? So you've got a lot of people from Germany, etc. And you're thinking, oh. And of course, it gets an enormous woof, when the line comes, don't mention the war, I think we got away with it. And, boom, and the whole audience erupts. And you're thinking, oh, yeah, they'll get it. It's a gag. I mean, it's just a gag.
And those gags are still common day parlance. People use those lines all the time.
And wasn't the Major played by former heartthrob, oh, help me out, Paul Nicholas? That was Paul Nicholas.
You're joking.
No, that was Paul Nicholas.
I
had
no idea.
Well, do you know how old Paul Nicholas is now?
That's astonishing.
No, it was Paul. Yes, I know. Wow. Paul Nicholas plays the Major, and at first you think, well, he hasn't got anything to do. And then as the show unwinds, the Major gets more and more lines and more to do and more involved in the plot and really moves the plot forward. Yeah, that's Paul Nicholas, as in Godspell and everything. Well, Paul Nicholas is in his early 80s now. He is. Paul Nicholas is in the early 80s now. I know, you'd never think. If you don't know who Paul Nicholas was, why Chantal is so astonished, he was a very handsome pin-up heartthrob singer actor. I mean, right up there, with like Peter Frampton sort of thing. And now he's playing the part of the Major, and he plays it brilliantly well.
Well, that's astonishing. Thank you for telling me that. Because I did say to the person next to me, is there anybody famous in this? Because we're quite a long way up the theatre. And he said, no, there's nobody famous in it. So I thought, okay, well,
I think that helps. Do you know what? I think that helps because if it was like, I don't know, Al Pacino playing Basil Fawlty, you go, what's Al Pacino? I'm so excited. But I didn't know who the actor was. So it was a blank sheet to me. And he inhabited Basil Fawlty, just was Basil Fawlty. It was excellent. I'm so glad you like it because God knows we need a laugh. And if you do need a laugh, it's on at the Criterion Theatre, right by Piccadilly Circus. Am I going mad? No, it is at the Criterion.
Apollo.
I'm going mental. It's on Shaftesbury Avenue. Sorry. Of course, it's not the Criterion at all. Terribly sorry about that. Right. Chantal, thank you so much.
Not at all. Have a great weekend.
I have other plans. I'll see you next week. See you
very soon. Take care.
Bye. Isn't she fantastic? We love her. Love her to bits. We love her to bits. She is the best. Right. That was Chantal Rickards OBE for all her services to everything else. Should have got the OBE just for helping us on the Midday show, quite frankly. Well, that's it for another week. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for joining us on YouTube and all the other platforms and all over the place, and old friends, new friends coming to join us. Bless you for that. Sorry for a few of the technical glitches. What the hell? If only I was Nicholas Tesla, it would be all perfect, but I'm not. Anyway, have a lovely weekend. We will be back on Monday, myself and Neil Longilong. Until then, careful what you tweet.